and gentlemen, welcome to Hit Play. It's another Saturday, I guess, by the time this episode comes out. Apologies for the delay, life happens. It's all five of you, thank you very much for standing by. James, what's going on, man? Nice to see you again at the coffee table.
Yeah, well, this time it's good to see you again at the coffee table. Fingers crossed. That's real here.
Yeah. This week we have some big news, both good and also not so good. Yeah. First and foremost, Norm Macdonald has tragically passed.
I love Norm Macdonald so much. He's easily my favorite comedian.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know how when you were like a teen and you pick like one show to base your personality around, like one band to base your personality
Yours was
around?
Norm Macdonald.
Mine was Norm Macdonald.
That's fair.
My entire sense of humor is just a rip-off of Norm Macdonald. It's like a poor impression of him. So, I mean, knowing him, he wouldn't have cared if anybody even knew he died at all.
I mean, he kept the fact that he was dying from cancer a secret for almost a decade. And
he was just the kind of guy who always took tragedies and loved to make jokes about them anyway. Yeah. So the general reaction people are having to his death is both, it's sad, but also we can still make jokes about him.
Yeah.
We can still poke fun at him, which he would have wanted.
Allegedly dead.
But
also actually dead.
Yeah.
That's the old Norm joke.
But
yeah, he's like a comedian's comedian.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's kind of in the same stratosphere as Dave Chappelle. I would argue him and Dave Chappelle
Gary
are
Shandling.
Very like
that tier.
Who's the other one that I'm thinking of that was super raw? One of the very first.
Carlin.
Yeah. Carlin was just like
It's
everybody could laugh.
It really means something when comedians who don't care about anyone, like Bill Burr, will be like, no, I kind of care. Norm Macdonald, he doesn't care. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He doesn't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of the ultimate sign of respect, you know?
Of shouting out at someone even though you've never
where I'm like,
shouted
if
out
Bill
anybody.
Burr doesn't care and he thinks Norm Macdonald doesn't care, that's like, no.
That's
Norman was just a comedic genius too.
What are some of your favorite bits?
The moth joke. I mean,
the one on Conan?
Yeah, that is just...
He apparently improvised that whole thing on the fly.
Yeah.
He knew the beginning, and then everything after that, he just kind of went with it.
Because they were like, oh, we still have, more interview to do. And he's like, how long is that going to take? They're like 7 minutes. And he's like, I'm going to make this joke 7 minutes long now.
And it worked. It's a very good bit.
Yeah, that one. And
I think him as Burt Reynolds in the Celebrity Jeopardy on SNL.
Oh, Turd Ferguson.
One of the funniest revolving bit. That whole Celebrity Jeopardy thing.
Mm-hmm. Is
one of the funniest.
Which apparently
things
Burt Reynolds
ever.
Loved.
Yeah. Well, I was reading Burt Reynolds actually wanted to go on SNL.
Oh, really?
And then he wanted to kick out Turd Ferguson and then act dumber than Turd Ferguson as part of the bit. But
That's
I guess Norm got fired from SNL before that.
One of my managers, because we wear name tags, he would print like fake name tags, and his favorite one to wear would be Turd Ferguson.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
That's a classic one. My other favorite one were any of his O.J. Simpson jokes, because he loved making fun of O.J. Simpson, where he was
just
like
anything.
Yeah, because he was hosting the ESPN Sports. You know how they do
the
their
ESPYs?
awards. Yeah, the ESPYs. That's what they're called. And he was like, shouting out all the players in the audience, and he was like, what's your name? It's like, you're the first defenseman to win the Heisman. That's nobody can take that away from you unless you kill your wife and the waiter, in which case, like in front of these professional athletes, calling out O.J. Simpson like that. Man. And you can tell half the audience is like, oh, that's hilarious. And the other half is like, O.J. didn't kill him. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And Norman is like, he doesn't care.
He caught out Oscar Pistorius. I remember that.
Yeah.
On a Conan bit, and you had Conan defending Oscar Pistorius. I think he started out being like, Oscar Pistorius is a dumb story. He's got these fake legs. Real runners run with real legs. What's the point of running?
Yeah.
And Conan's like, what are you talking about? He's like, let me ask you, what makes a runner a runner? He's like, well, I don't know. What makes a runner a runner? He's like, I don't know. The fact that they use their legs. And so he's going on this long, like 2-minute rant. And then Conan's like, no, he's fine. Like, it's an endearing story. He's like, oh, so you like women killers. And Conan's like, you set me up.
That's what I love about Norm so much. He just so, like, obviously, like, manipulates people's perceptions of the joke so that when the punchline hits, it's like, how did I not see that coming? I love that so much.
He has one about 9/11 too. I remember he was talking to I don't even know the guy, but he's like, so some guy on a stroke called 9/11, and it was a miracle. And the guy's like 911. He's like, oh yeah, 911. But 9/11 was a national tragedy. And the guy starts cracking up. He's like, come on, don't laugh about 9/11.
Oh my god,
it's perfect.
Oh my god. Norm Macdonald.
He will be missed. I don't think
he was the.
You guys don't need us to say that.
He was the dumbest smart man in the world, or possibly the smartest dumb person in the world.
Yeah. So he'll be missed. But I think his impact will definitely.
Oh yeah, no, he's
continue on.
Even though he has that reputation of being a comedian's comedian, I think thanks to the internet and his podcast, the amount of people who he now has a reach out to, and particularly his bits on Conan. Yeah. Those go viral like every year or something like that.
Every time he's on, he was the talk show host's ideal guest.
Favorite,
because he could make anything funny.
Yeah.
And he could talk about anything.
He
talks about his memoir. He's like, you'll know that I'm a deeply closeted gay man.
It's like, you're gay? No! I'm deeply closeted. I'm telling you, I'm not gay.
Do you understand the definition of deeply closeted? Yeah, you don't want to come out. So I'm telling you. Oh, man, yeah. It's sad times by many. But on to some other news. Yeah. Unless you had any last words. I think we said all we can say about Norm.
No, he's dead, so we move on.
Yeah. As Norm would say, it was a draw. Cancer didn't win. He took it with him.
Yep. Yeah.
So
when you die, cancer dies with you. It's not lost, it's a draw.
Some big news, and I was very, 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 very excited to see this pop on my Instagram page. You guys know that I'm well versed in the film Instagram scene. Christopher Nolan has what are you doing?
What do you do?
Christopher Nolan just inked a deal with Universal. Not Warner, not Paramount, not Netflix, even though they were in the running, technically, to produce his new J. Robert Oppenheimer film. Let me ask you this first off. I don't know why I'm calling him J. Robert Oppenheimer, I'm sorry.
Sarah
Do you know much?
Parker.
Yeah. Do you know much about him? Do you think his story is
He was the guy who... He didn't design the atom bomb, but he spearheaded the project that designed it. He has a famous quote where when the bomb is dropped and he's like, I am become death, destroyer of worlds.
Very chilling interview. If you guys haven't seen that,
seriously.
I would highly recommend going to watch that. It is, you're seeing a guy confront the fact that what he created is possibly the worst thing.
Yeah.
That has ever been created.
The worst weapon of all time.
Yeah, he was in charge of that. But
so yeah, I mean, that I think itself is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like that theoretical concept, or I guess
dealing with that conflict, the inner conflict.
In terms of his life itself, it's all about physics, and Nolan loves physics and stuff like that. So I can see it being up Nolan's alley. What I would be curious is how Nolan is going to approach it, because...
Well, there's going to be some 3-level...
I don't think so.
Altering timelines.
I see what you're saying.
Flashbacks and framing narratives.
I still feel like it's going to be more like Dunkirk, where it's Dunkirk has the 3 parallel stories, but it's still a simple movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to be up the same road. It's just one story. He might approach it in a weird way with, flashbacks and stuff like that.
Naturally.
How can you contrast his childhood as an innocent kid with his adulthood as a man who made a cruel bomb? That's probably going to be something that comes up. But I think it's going to be a pretty low-key Nolan film. And his low-key is still higher than most people's, but nonetheless.
Well, it's actually interesting because I remember we were talking about Nolan, and I think I brought up the point where I kind of wish he would go back to that simpler filmmaking. Not that, obviously I love The Dark Knight and everything he's done after it.
Yeah.
Or I guess Batman Begins.
He's never going to give up IMAX.
Yeah, but to see his earlier works like Memento, Following, and I don't even remember it because it was so garbage. Insomnia.
There you go.
Not garbage. Mediocre.
Terrible.
Mediocre. C-. I do kind of want to see him go back to that intimate and just kind of pushing himself to do something he's never done, because we've seen the different timelines, we've seen the flashbacks, we've seen the framing narratives that he uses, we've seen these grand set pieces and action sequences.
Yeah, we're so used to him escalating every project that for him to do something new, he has to go back to doing something simple. Yeah, it'll be interesting because this is also his first biopic, unless we're counting Memento as a Guy Pearce biopic. As a Guy Pearce biopic?
That's not confirmed.
Based on his real life? Yeah.
We don't know.
Dunkirk is kind of a biopic.
True,
at least
true.
Based on true
it's a true story.
It's a biopic of an entire event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's, it's a gray area.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how he tackled, especially because I remember one of the critiques we both had of Nolan was he doesn't have his character's internal motivation.
Yeah.
Is so at times one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned that characters are often obsessed about one thing and one thing only. So it'll be interesting to see Nolan reverse that to a degree.
One character. Yeah.
And be more like, I need to deal with the ramifications of my decisions and my
actually have internal conflict.
What I've done. Yeah. So will it work? I'm excited to find out. That's for sure. I know I'll be there opening weekend.
It's I mean, I'll see it. I think I hope it is just a simple low-key
story
product. These cicadas are so freaking loud.
It's all right. I don't think they pick up.
These cicadas, man.
Yeah, they don't pick up. Anyways.
Okay, that's good.
Over under 3 atom bombs. 3.5 atom bombs to actually be... Well, let's ask this question. Do we think an actual atomic bomb is going to be exploded for this film?
I think he's going to use miniatures.
I would not doubt that. The dude crashed a plane into a hangar.
Well, okay.
He made the bat tumbler a real thing.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think he would use miniatures because you get the same scale of the explosion that he's looking for with an atomic bomb explosion. Because dropping an atom bomb basically for fun and profit is like... He's going to have to get some...
I mean, the government did it. Why can't he?
His security clearance has to be pretty top-notch if he can get to do that. I mean...
The government did it in the 50s and 60s for funsies.
At the very least, I'll give him one.
There's going to be at least one, and everybody's going to be like, oh...
The least expectations, like my worst expectations, is he would drop one. The best case scenario is he actually goes the entire film without ever showing a bomb exploding.
That would be an interesting...
And it would just be internal conflict.
There's a movie, a movie about the Trinity Project. It doesn't follow Oppenheimer, though he's in it. But they don't show the actual explosion. They just show... So it's the characters in the bunker, the scientists in the bunker. It shows the flash, and then it shows the destruction that the shockwaves and fire causes.
Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade.
Not Indiana Jones. Not Indiana Jones.
Are you talking about Black Ops 1 campaign?
Talking about Modern Warfare campaign.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I can see him doing
something like that.
Yeah. But that's also just me projecting like what I would do.
Yeah.
Is I would be like, here's a story about the atom bomb. How can I approach it without ever showing the atom bomb?
Yeah.
But I honestly, I won't be surprised if he actually drops a real nuke in the Nevada desert just because he can.
Do we think it's in... Well, I guess, the Trinity Project was in Nevada. Or
is that why he left Warner Brothers?
For what?
Because they wouldn't let him drop a bomb?
Oh no, so that is a whole other topic.
Oh, yeah. That's my segue.
Yeah. Good segue. We've been doing this for almost 6 months and
We're just now getting segues. We traded segues
but
for segues.
so other than me being excited about Oppenheimer and Nolan making another movie. Yeah, Nolan making another movie. Obviously. I would be excited for that. Warner Brothers is not the distributing partner on this film. Nolan has secured $100 million for this film from Universal, which is surprising to me. I mean, I think we all saw the writing on the wall with Warner Brothers. Obviously, if you haven't been keeping up with it, he was very soured on HBO's response to the pandemic and their
release of Tenet.
Release of not just Tenet, but all films from 2020 and 21, 22. HBO Max wants to do the same day theatrical and streaming, which, if we've been keeping up with, there's two reasons that I think Nolan is upset about this. Okay. And I think they're very, very strong reasons. This isn't just me.
Okay. What are they?
Psychology.
What are they?
Number one, it's the pure auteur in him. He
just wants to control.
People that too, but people need to go to the theater. His thought process is this: we need to get people in theaters.
Yeah.
Not just for movie theaters to stay afloat, but
for cinema. Because
that's the way film is supposed to be experienced, is in a theater. Which I understand. I also understand the opposite effect of I don't want to risk death to go watch your movie.
Bit of a bad timing to pull that one.
Me personally, I will go watch any of his movies, and I have seen movies in theaters. So, I'm not in that category, but I understand those who don't choose that. The second reason, I think it's a purely financial reason. We're seeing this with Scarlett Johansson in the MCU, where the same day streaming is cutting from the theaters, the theater's box office. Obviously Scarlett is still in that
lawsuit. Yeah,
and I don't think we'll ever get an answer on that, at least within the year. Maybe
probably not.
Maybe March. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. So those are the two reasons I think he went.
Yeah, understandable.
He left Warner.
The financial one makes sense too.
Yeah. Especially for a guy like Nolan, who is a big director and
wants money.
Yeah, and I think it was
for his projects.
Dunkirk.
Not saying he's greedy.
Also on that, but on Dunkirk, he had a $20 million just straight up fee, and then he also got 20% of, I think, the revenue or the profits. I think it was gross, or something like that.
Not bad.
Don't quote me on that. But that's a big chunk of change because I mean, Dunkirk made what, 300 something, 100, 200, 400,
300 million.
So even 10% of that is, that's almost over
100 million.
Yeah, that's over 50 million.
Yeah,
just for making one movie. So that's a big chunk of change for him. But also because Warner, I guess allegedly, this is according to IndieWire, didn't want to invest in a theatrical only movie.
Yeah,
the kind of money that Nolan demands.
I mean, especially since they have HBO, and HBO is almost now like it's almost exclusively a streaming service now.
Yeah.
Warner is like, we're gonna put all our chips in this basket, and everyone else, if you're with us, you just follow suit. And Nolan is like, I kind of don't want to, so bye. I don't want to be in the streaming game. Just want to be in the theater game. And I also think, maybe Nolan is also the kind of guy who is like, okay, well, if everyone is going to streaming, if I stay in theater, that who else is going to be there to compete with me? Right?
Yeah.
So I get all that revenue, and the streaming people can go play in the sandbox with themselves. And yeah, he's probably also thought of that a little bit. I'm sure of it.
You want to read this quote? You want to hear this quote that he said about HBO Max?
What did he say?
So this was after Warner came out with their schedule and everything. He comes out and says, some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio, and woke up to found they were working for the worst streaming service. End quote.
That's pretty funny.
Imagine saying that about your boss of 19 years.
I mean, understandable. Yeah.
Just like, Yeah, everybody here worked for you and thought you were cool, but you actually just
But now you suck.
suck.
Yeah. I mean, that to me is, I mean, I'd hate to say that it comes down to he just prefers movie theaters over streaming.
But I mean, it is.
But
yeah.
But I feel like he has a more calculated reason behind it.
Mhm.
You know, like what we've been discussing. That's just what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It can't boil down to just I
He
don't
feels the
like
ser-
streaming
yeah, he feels the
services.
service.
Yeah.
It's also he's very much trying to keep movie theaters afloat because people have jobs in the theaters, right?
Yeah.
It's a whether or not you actually believe in this reason is another debate, but that's the fact is people you have ushers, concessionaires,
Yeah, true.
managers, whatever, janitors, what have you. People that actually have to run the theaters get paid because those big movies are in the theaters.
Yeah.
So he's trying to keep those people employed as
So
well.
count down until Nolan starts his own streaming service.
All right, so here's the I guess the terms of his deal. I guess
Okay.
that's a good word.
With Universal,
With Universal, it's $100
Okay.
million budget. It's
which is pretty low for him.
Pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why
I think
I'm
the last
thinking
film
it's
that had
gonna
$100 million budget was. I don't even know.
probably The Prestige.
Prestige.
Yeah.
Can we get IT? IT? Can we get on that, please?
You mean you?
Yeah.
You mean you right now?
The Prestige. What is it?
Budget.
Budget.
What do you think it's gonna be?
I 40 million.
Wow, it was even less
So
than that.
because the Batman movies were all 100 plus.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Interstellar was 100 plus.
He did Batman right after this, so it was Batman.
No, I'm saying
I was just saying his first $100 million budget.
Begins was before though. It went Begins, Prestige, Dark Knight, Inception.
Look, we did that episode a long
Dark
time
Knight
ago.
Rises. That's how you know I'm into Nolan is when I know his,
You know them in
the
chronological
whole
order.
chronological
I
order
see.
of his movies.
Touche.
But anyways, regardless, Prestige was his last sub $100 million
Mm-hmm.
movie, which
Doesn't show.
is interesting
Yeah.
because he did a lot with $40 million
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just this. We're not gonna repeat
Yeah.
what our podcast.
Go listen to that.
Go listen to episode
Or don't.
2.
It has really bad audio quality.
Go listen to episode 2. No. Okay, so $100 million budget, $100 million marketing, which is pretty standard.
Yep.
Marketing is always
Double.
the size of the
Yeah.
budget, so that's how you. So
By
the
double,
whole
I mean
budget of the film is $200 million.
Plus 2.
Yeah. 20% of first dollar gross. So every dollar that he makes at the box office, he gets 20% of, just straight up. Doesn't have to wait for profits. Doesn't have to wait for a net gain. Just
He wants it all.
whatever
Yeah.
you do.
It's starting to sound like he wants to build the atom bombs himself.
Honestly,
He has his own silo.
no other movie from Universal, this one's interesting,
Yeah.
can release for 3 weeks before or after his movie comes out.
That's what I'm saying. He wants to stick with theaters because he knows everyone else is going to streaming.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to be in this lane and I know it's only going to be me.
But
So I'm going to force you to make it only
He's
me.
trying to get his own monopoly, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like.
His own creative monopoly on theater goers.
Yeah.
Being like, my movie's going to be the only one in theaters. You're not going to have any choice. You're going to have to see my movie.
And his movie will play in theaters exclusively for 100 days before it goes to streaming, which
Pretty arbitrary, but
Yeah.
okay. What can you
100 days is what, 3 months, 10 days or something like that.
Yeah.
So, let's do an early projection. Do we think it does well?
Yeah.
I think Nolan at this point is a franchise.
Yeah.
I don't know if we mentioned
He
this.
himself.
I don't know if we mentioned this in our when we
Review.
talked about Nolan back in
Yeah.
the day, but I
He's
just
a
think he
human
can
franchise.
sell.
Yeah.
Will his movies always be critically and fan appreciated?
No.
No, absolutely not.
This one probably won't be. I think he's going to do something so different that people are going to be like,
I don't think people will like it.
yeah,
Yeah, especially because it's Oppenheimer and it's physics and
low budget. Yeah.
low budget.
I expect the whole movie to just be a physics lecture.
If it's not, if I don't want to read the theory of everything by Stephen Hawking by the end of this movie,
It hasn't done its job.
it hasn't done its job.
It's literally just Kip Thorne in front of a whiteboard and he just writes down equations for an hour and a half. Tells the story of Oppenheimer. Yeah, that's what it's gonna be.
I think this was an interesting tidbit we should talk about. Netflix was in the running. Didn't look like they had a chance.
No, probably not.
Which is weird because Netflix does do theatrical releases
Well, yeah, I mean, I was gonna say if he
for
was
all
even
their
considering them,
Oscar
Mhm.
movies, the movies that they deem worthy of Oscars.
which Nolan's probably the kind of guy who's like, well, obviously I'm gonna get nominated for something. You have to put me in the theater on that cause alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no. I mean, it's tough to say. There are directors who were like, streaming is terrible. Scorsese, Fincher, and now look at where they are. I feel
Scorsese is the most hypocritical one out of all of them because I remember him bashing years Netflix and how Netflix was bad, and then he creates a Netflix movie, and then I think Killers of the Flower Moon is Apple Music or Apple Plus. So it's like,
no, it's definitely Apple
what
Music.
are you doing? Like, you're going to every single streaming service? Like,
And David Fincher is doing the opposite of Nolan, where he's like, I'm just going to be on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be my lane.
Mhm.
So, interesting. I mean, it's nice to see, or I guess it's kind of cool to be at this like crossroads period in film where everyone's kind of scrambling to be like, what is going to happen in the future? I think it's going to be theater. I'm going to go theater. I think it's going to be both. I'm going to do both. You know, let the chips fall where they may. I think it's just going to be streaming. I'm just going to go to streaming.
Yeah.
Who will win?
Yeah, you're really saying
Who's next? You decide.
We're going to get copyrighted. It is interesting seeing these different directors, though, kind of
duke it out.
take sides.
Yeah, take sides.
More or less. So
you never know.
who do we think the next big director is? I didn't prep you for this question at all, but who do you think the next big director is to go to streaming?
I feel like
because even Tarantino went to streaming.
Yeah.
Hateful Eight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a Netflix film. Wait.
No. That came out like way before Netflix was even doing like original
What?
movies.
It came out in 2018. Why am I looking up Netflix?
Did it?
I feel like it did.
That wasn't that long ago.
Am I tripping?
I think you are.
Yeah, 2015. Oh, 2015. Okay, so maybe not. Okay, sorry about that. Cut that out too.
It was not a Netflix movie though. What
It is on
went to
Netflix.
Netflix was the extended cut.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think so.
Because trust me, I remember
Because
when the movie
I think
came out.
it was
like,
exclusive to Netflix, right? The extended cut.
probably,
Well,
yeah.
unless you went to go to like a special screening that he does.
Yeah.
Regardless, who do we
Regardless,
think the next big director is?
I think it's gonna be Stanley Kubrick's estate is gonna come out and say that all of his movies
Jesus
are
Christ,
now
I would-
exclusively.
You know what? I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah,
He's old. I mean, he's dead, and his movies are old.
that's redundant, but yes. No, I
I
feel
don't
like
think I would mind that.
I mean, because what's weird too is that somebody like Nolan, who always has such a divisive opinion about something, like for him to choose a side kind of makes sense. If Spielberg came out and said, "I'm only going to be doing Apple streaming, Apple Plus," people would be like, "Okay, have fun."
That's like Spielberg. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of Spielberg though.
But if it was, someone with like Nolan, who you kind of
That's what I'm saying. He's the last one. He's the last. I guess Tarantino too, but
yeah,
at least in this era of filmmakers.
yeah, more or less. I mean, yeah, it's hard to think.
Wes Anderson. I don't think he's made a Netflix movie.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. It's hard to see.
So
Most of the
those
people I
three?
think of, if they said I'm exclusively streaming, it would be like, okay.
What is Last Night in Soho? Is that Netflix?
Edgar
Yeah.
Wright? That's not Netflix. I don't believe so. No.
Okay, so Edgar Wright's still out there.
He's still available. Friendly streaming services. You want to pick up Edgar Wright? Yeah, we're gonna have a call sheet with all of them on it. Go through.
Who owns
Edgar Wright. Anybody want Edgar Wright?
Who has Last
Didn't
Night
even
in
know.
Soho? Nobody has Last Night in Soho. Okay. So
Who knows?
yeah, it's like this
Yeah.
the last crusade, I guess. I'm trying to think. I can't.
Let me
That's
ask you
really
this
it.
though. I can imagine directors following Nolan and saying, "I will
Theaters
also
only.
want to do theaters only." 100 days and then it goes on streaming. Someone like Cuarón, Roma was Netflix.
Yeah.
But I feel like Iñárritu would be like theater only. I can see him doing that route.
Where has he been? That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
He's been doing VR stuff.
What has old Alejandro been up to?
He's been doing VR stuff.
It's been a minute since we've heard his name pop up.
Yeah, seriously.
Guillermo, I think Guillermo del Toro would go to Netflix like immediately.
He wouldn't do Netflix. He would do
You don't think so?
like some other like weird smaller streaming service. He would do like Quibi.
He would do a Vizio TV.
Yeah. Yeah. He would do like a whole, like he's the kind of guy who'd find like Mubi, like a specific like one type of genre is all we stream kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what he would do for sure.
Limbo. Okay, so he's got a film coming out called Limbo.
Yeah, there's a film coming out called Limbo. Any information on it
No,
whatsoever?
we just know it's in post production.
All right. Who's the cinematographer?
It doesn't say.
We'll go to Crew.
Oh, there you go. Darius Kanji.
I don't know who that is. Oh, I know who that is. Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Let's see what he shot. Amor 7.
Mm-hmm.
Midnight,
where I learned
Midnight
from
in
he did
Paris.
Amor is a fantastic movie.
Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Those are about all of his films that are relevant. A lot of music videos.
But yeah, no.
Panic Room.
So he's worked with David Fincher.
He's worked with Fincher before.
Nice. He worked with Michael Haneke. That's always cool. He worked with the Safdie brothers. Sadie. How do you pronounce it?
I think it's Safdie.
Safdie?
Yeah.
Man, I can never get it right.
They're foreign. It's okay.
My speech impediment impedes me too often.
Yeah, it's Safdie brothers. All right. Well, anything else on Nolan or I've scrolled like 3 articles about Nolan and they're all saying the same thing. So
feel like he needs to, just kind of take a chill pill, do a smaller budget movie.
Which he's doing, which is good.
It seems like he's doing. You never know. 90 million could go towards the atom bomb, right?
Imagine.
Yeah. But
it's like Dazed and Confused that over 75% of the budget just went to the soundtrack.
Yeah. I feel like Nolan just needs to get off his high horse and just accept the fact that times are changing. Let go of the past. People are going to see his movies regardless of where they are. Because maybe that's what he's worried about is the exclusivity of streaming. Some people don't have HBO.
I mean, that's a fair point though, because how many Apple Music?
I don't even have HBO.
Apple Music, Apple Plus stuff have you seen?
None, because I don't have it.
Yeah,
because I don't want it.
Yeah, it would. Well, yeah. Are you gonna pay $15.99 a month to go watch Nolan's movie when you can wait for the DVD to come out and buy it once for $20, or just go see it in theaters for $13?
Yeah, you're going to see it in theaters.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I say that for any director. That's just not any director that I like.
If you release something on Apple Plus, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, and that's just me personally.
Yeah, no, that's on principle.
You joke, but yes.
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, I like that at least somebody has an opinion about it, and he's, him and David Fincher both.
He's very on the picket line about it, which is cool.
I mean, I feel like to some degree it's his attitude that is kind of like, okay, it's not the worst streaming service, and it wasn't the best run studio in Hollywood. Well, let's, calm down a little bit. But it's not Paramount
Everybody
Plus.
knows the worst streaming service is Paramount Plus.
Yeah. The worst run streaming service.
Second, by the way, is Amazon. Because Amazon, why do you continue to display everything in 720p? I have a 4K television, 55-inch. What the fuck? Excuse my French. What the fuck? Like, why is that still a thing? Hulu, you're better about it, but we're looking at you too, pal.
Hulu, you're cool.
It's the one thing I like about Netflix is it's always 1080 or 4K resolution on the menu.
Yeah.
Amazon, I cannot stand going to Amazon. The UI is slow, and it looks ugly. Sorry, I just had to get that out real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Also, I hate Jeff Bezos. Glad we got that out of the
Hashtag
way.
edgy teen. Anyways, let's finish this discussion. So biopics.
Biopics.
We're getting an Oppenheimer one.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your favorite other biopics?
My favorite biopics. That's a good question.
Can I give you one? This one's from a music group.
All right, give me one from Music Group.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
The Dirt.
The Dirt.
That's a Netflix film
What's it
about
about?
Motley Crue.
Oh, really?
Psych. No, that's garbage. I was just joking.
What? Okay.
Unironically though.
That's good.
Unironically though.
What do you like about it?
No, I don't like it.
Oh.
I'm saying unironically though. Public Enemies. I was trying to find the title of the name. Public Enemies.
Yeah.
The Johnny Depp, John Dillinger crime movie.
Michael Mann.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very well done. Surprisingly well done. I remember watching it the first time. I was like 12, and I was like, "This is pretty good." But I was also 12, so I went back to rewatch it. And when I was rewatching it, I was like, "No, I had good taste back then. This is still good."
I love Michael Mann because his movies just look cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what he does. There's just something about his movies that he just like knows what he's doing.
This movie looks like a 1930s. Like it feels like a 1930s movie.
It doesn't really look like one. It just has the aura.
Yeah.
Of gangsters.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Of Al Capone.
Because it's very
stuff like
grainy.
that. Yeah.
It's very dimly lit at times. There's like a sense of, like
It's palpable.
It feels like it's kind of
The atmosphere.
slow
Yeah.
in a way, which is what we're used to seeing when we think of the the 30s. 20s.
Yeah, the old hand cranked stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, just the tale of John Dillinger is a pretty cool story. It drove me down a whole rabbit hole of
Did it?
John Dillinger and J. Edgar and the FBI's inception and all that jazz.
Did you ever see the Clint Eastwood biopic, J. Edgar?
No, that's the one with Leo, right?
Yep.
Haven't seen it. Heard it's pretty good.
It's okay. Clint Eastwood. Okay, while we're on the subject then of good biopics, Clint Eastwood has like exclusively done biopics between J. Edgar, American Sniper, and Sully. How many of those have you seen?
American Sniper.
Which is probably the best one to see. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good long. Oh yeah, I remember you talking
Gave
about
me
how much you
one of
love
the
that movie.
weirdest, both coolest theater experiences.
Yeah,
at the
I
end.
remember you talking about that.
Super surreal. Didn't even feel real, but it was a cool
Now-
experience.
Let's actually like focus the discussion when we're talking about biopics. Do you love the like for American Sniper, or even like if you compare American Sniper to Public Enemies? You love them because they have aesthetic qualities to them, right? But what about the actual characterization of these real people?
Well, that's what drew me to Public Enemies was like these gangsters, these cool, listen,
you
Johnny
love-
Depp is one of my favorite character actors. Anytime Johnny Depp's playing a crazy character, I'm in.
Yeah,
So when he's
Mordecai.
playing, when he's playing a gangster, like just a straight gangster,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm in. I'm into that. Let's
Can't
do
do
it.
that incorrectly.
Yeah, let's do something new. And I was really into. That's what sold me on the idea, and then the actual just
The film itself.
story of
Yeah.
John Dillinger and why he did what he did.
hmm
And I'm not saying he was a saint or anything like that, but obviously not. But why these guys did what they did, and they had a code amongst themselves to a degree. That was really interesting. Just that whole era of, I mean, Bonnie and Clyde is a pretty another.
I was
one.
gonna bring up Bonnie and Clyde too. That's a good one, where it
Was
does
another
a
story.
good job of both Bonnie and Clyde and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are both good examples of movies where they. Because here's the big problem with biopics is you're taking real life events which aren't always super dramatic.
Yeah.
They're dramatic when you tell them as stories, but not how they actually happened. But when you're making the movie, you're trying to portray how it actually happened. You run into the problem that like life just isn't that cinematic. Bonnie and Clyde and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid get away with that because they had pretty
Very, very-
freaking cinematic lives.
Yeah.
And so it was like almost most of the like invented elements of those movies are just like the dialogue.
Yeah.
But it's like in terms of the story, it's like, oh yeah, they did that stuff. And then you're like, what? But Butch Cassidy is a good one because it's hilarious. It's such a funny movie. It's not even really that serious until the ending. Bonnie and Clyde is just like, if you want a good tragic love story that's not Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
it's Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, right.
Those are the two.
Raging Bull. Raging Bull. Sorry.
Jake LaMotta, right?
Yeah.
That's his name? Yeah.
Martin Scorsese.
Classic one.
Classic black and white.
There's there's biopics where I don't know the real person and their
Sure.
life story, and then there's biopics where I know the
real
story
person.
and life person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Raging Bull, for all I know, could be completely false. That doesn't stop it from just being a good story of
Yeah.
that character and his like mental roller coaster
Decline.
through time. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Mostly down.
A classic Scorsese staple.
Yeah. It goes down, but it has some waves on it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you this. Do you hate, and I think we kind of talked about this with Social Network, do you care about the historical accuracy of biopics
So
whatsoever? Because I remember this was probably one of the main talking points about Social Network.
Yeah.
We both like the film. It is not,
But it's not very accurate at all.
whatsoever historically accurate.
it's not even like accurate to the people.
Yeah,
Same with Steve Jobs, which was also written by Aaron Sorkin.
yeah. That one is another example where they went the complete opposite.
It's
of that.
all fictional.
Yeah.
It's just real people. It's just all fictional events.
It's just a character study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, it's still a good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than the Ashton
Yeah.
Kutcher one.
No, that's not even a debate. Yeah.
But it's like, it's weird how it's real people, but it's just everything's fake.
Yeah.
In it. It's all imagined scenarios.
Do you feel lied to?
No, not at all. 'Cause it's
'Cause
still a good story.
I feel lied to a little bit.
I don't mind it if it works in the story. There are times where, like, okay, when it comes to like historical accuracy, like Band of Brothers gets the date wrong that Hitler died. That's why
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you could probably,
That was-
do a little bit better.
To Band of Brothers' defense, though, I will come to their defense. Everything else about that show is correct. Even what characters are in what scenes
Yeah.
is correct because they
what
had the
saw what.
actual soldiers
Yeah.
there, and we're like, no, you weren't here. You were actually, goofing off with
And
the
you know
other
those
guys.
have good
yeah.
memories too. Those
Yeah,
guys have
it's
amazing
like
memories.
what's like that. When I read that, I was like, that's crazy how much detail that is. But yeah, that's a pretty big. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big blunder because that's
But then there are times, like for example, the best example I can think of is Amadeus, the Mozart,
Mozart.
and Salieri.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, it's based on the play, but just speaking of the movie, which I think was also written by the playwright himself, it's almost completely inaccurate to their actual relationship in real life. But it's such a good story. I mean, and it's one of those stories we've seen forever. It's the young, talented kid and the old, cynical guy, and the Dionyson versus the Apollo. Blah blah blah. We've
Sure.
seen that before, but it's Mozart, and that elevates it a little bit because it's like meant to be a biopic. But their relationship was nothing like what it was, to the point where like people who love classical music are like, guys, cool it with the Salieri hate. He was actually a good like friend to Mozart. They were not rivals like almost at all. Like when you've completely skewed everyone's perception of a historical figure because
This is when it goes
you just
wrong.
needed conflict in your story, it's like, okay,
Braveheart.
Yeah.
Braveheart got absolutely nothing right about William Wallace,
Well, okay.
other than his name is William Wallace.
This is also the guy who in Apocalypto put the collapse of the Mayan Empire at the as preceding the conquistador landing in Central America. It's reversed in real life, but he had it in the opposite way. And that
So the
is-
Aztecs fell before the conquistadors went.
that is like, that's not even the blunder. That's just like, you have never read a book in your life. You thought, oh, this looks cool. I like this imagery. Let's use it. You just didn't do any research at all. It's, I mean, and that's even a movie where they speak the actual language. All the actors learned.
Aztecian,
Yeah,
whatever the language
there's
is.
a word for it. But is it Incal? No, that's Incal. They actually learned the historical ancient language which is actually not dead, by the way. There's still people in Mexico
Yeah.
who speak it to this day.
Deep in Mexico.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're like taking, it's hard to say because it almost never happens, but when it does, it's like the story is fine either way, really. I mean, they're a powerful empire and everyone is rich. Oh, except this one guy who did this bad thing, now he has to go on a foot chase
Quest.
through the jungle. Yeah. And then the conquistadors show up and you're like, oh my god, it's about to go down, right? That works just the same as everyone is poor, therefore he has to commit a crime, therefore he has to run, therefore blah 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 blah.
Sure.
It's like you could have just cared a little bit more for the accuracy. A good example of that is the movie Master and Commander, the Ron Howard movie with freaking Russell Crowe. It's okay if you've never seen it. I've been in the actual boat. Master and Commander. It is about the boat called the Star of India, and its journeys around India. And what's funny is that as they were writing the script, they had written a version of the script just based off of their knowledge of the historical events.
Mm-hmm.
But then as they were both rewriting and then shooting the movie, and they learned more of the actual historical events, they rewrote the movie constantly to fit the actual what happened. Where they were like, oh, this event took place during a storm, or this didn't took place, or when these two ships were fighting, we think it's dramatic if the entire mast falls over, but it didn't happen, blah blah blah. They were like, okay, we'll just keep it accurate, because most of that stuff doesn't affect the story.
So
it's easier that way.
Why does it matter?
Yeah, why does it matter?
Yeah.
I mean,
it almost feels like a biopic needs to be successful, I guess. It needs to capture the theme and the message of the story and not
of the person,
the actual real life. It feels like more people enjoy that more than just
that's the big issue with pointing out
bullet points of what happened.
Yeah, because biopics really only work if they can get across
the message,
the person's message, or their life's theme, or
like Bohemian Rhapsody, right? It's a story of acceptance and being different, and being ostracized,
every member getting the exact same amount of screen time,
and being one of the worst edited films to ever
win an Oscar.
The worst edited film to win for best film editing, I should say.
Yeah.
We don't even need to go through all the whole history.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah. But Bohemian Rhapsody gets everything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie didn't find out he had AIDS during Live Aid. He found that out 5 years after Live Aid, and he didn't tell. That boyfriend he had or whatever. He didn't just find him in the middle. He had been friends with him for years. There's just so many little things here and there that I was just like, man, this movie sucks. And I think that when you do that, when you mislead your audience that much, where you're intentionally moving dates, like you said with Apocalypto, it's kind of, I don't know. But that's why I don't mind Braveheart. To not interrupt you, but I'm gonna do it anyways. That's why I don't mind Braveheart as much about being historically inaccurate, because it's he was actually born in 1066 instead of 1064. He was born in February instead of March. Whatever, right?
Well, that's why.
But it still captures that character.
The big issue is also Jake LaMotta could be Raging Bull is entirely untrue. Absolutely everything is incorrect. And I'd be like, well, it's still a good movie. Yeah. Still gonna
Same
watch
with the Social Network.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Zuckerberg laughed about the portrayal of him.
And it's it's still one of my favorite movies of all time.
I think he even said the only thing that they got right was
his name
and the wardrobe that he wore during that time.
Yeah. But it's it's still a good movie. I'm still gonna watch it.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely.
That's just it. It's case by case. There's no blanket because then you get freaking people like Neil deGrasse Tyson in Titanic, where he was like, well, actually, in that hemisphere, the stars are not in the right spot. And then James Cameron went back and changed all the stars in the sky.
First off, Neil deGrasse Tyson has become the most pompous asshole ever. It's ridiculous how much influence went to that guy's head. How much
I mean,
guess
science is important, but yeah, you know,
I think it works though when it's ancient history or medieval history or back in the
yeah.
day.
I mean, because yeah, I can see that because then you only really get the super fans, the authority, not the authoritarians, but the like Arthur, the
Yeah.
people who know that stuff, and they're like, well, actually, the kind of clothes, the fabric they would have made at that time was wool and
Okay, but that's different.
leather.
That one I won't excuse. When you have a freaking P-52 Mustang flying in Germany during 1941, that's unexcusable.
No, it's a purposeful anachronism. It adds to the
that I will not
characters a
excuse
sense of being out of place.
When props are inaccurate just for the sake of being inaccurate, I don't like
that's used in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where they
don't
ride
like
a bicycle.
I've never seen that movie before, and
they ride a bicycle, which is like not an invention in America at the time, but it's used to show that they don't belong in America. And what happens at the end of the movie? They leave America. So like an anachronism like that, if you're a good screenwriter, which William Golding is, like, Princess Bride, stuff like that, he's an amazing screenwriter. You can get away with it. William Golding, I believe, wrote Lord of the Flies. But William Goldman is a fantastic screenwriter. He can get away with it because he knows what he's doing and he's way smarter than I will ever be in my life. And he can do stuff like that. And I, struggle. In my opinion,
I don't know.
If it works, it works. An anachronism like that makes sense.
I just think you're doing a disservice though to the actual historical event. I think I'm more against it in a war movie than I am in like.
Well, that's understandable.
Like Butch Cassidy, where it's like, why does a soldier during Vietnam have an M4 with a red dot sight? Red dot sights weren't even a thing.
Yeah.
If it was something that noticeable, I'm like, no, F you.
That's understandable. Dude, freaking in 2001 The Space Odyssey, what are all these people doing using their... Those space boots weren't even released until 2005.
2001 was not that cool.
Of a year? Yeah. A movie, it's amazing.
That's what I'm saying. The year was not that cool.
No. The year was not...
As the movie portrays.
I don't know. I mean...
it's an interesting one?
Okay, go.
And it kind of goes into our...
historical accuracy.
Changing the accuracy of it, but also not really changing the accuracy of it. My Friend Dahmer. Have you seen that one?
That's... I know the comic book.
So it's the comic book got adapted into a novel. Or movie, sorry.
Yeah.
About some group of guys that were friends with Jeffrey Dahmer during high school.
High school friends with Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, imagine finding that guy in the news.
Which was interesting because, I mean, obviously we have to take bias inside, but it's this portrayal of what this guy was.
Mm-hmm. It's also a portrayal of someone else's perspective of him.
Yeah, exactly. And
which, to that degree, the inaccuracies in it. I mean,
right. That's why we have to take account the biases that are present in the film. Yeah. Obviously, Jeffrey Dahmer is a piece of shit. We're not here to defend Jeffrey Dahmer.
Imagine if when Fincher released Zodiac, the Zodiac killer released a note in the paper saying the movie wasn't accurate.
That would have been crazy, right?
Dude, Zodiac 2, that's the sequel.
Too bad Arthur Allen died in 1970, whatever.
No, dude, Zodiac 2, that's the sequel.
That'd be a cool short film. Should we just cut the audio and go workshop that? Anyways.
Talk about the movie. My Friend Dahmer.
Yeah.
No, that I can see. Just because it's from someone else's perspective.
When they do it that way and they're inaccurate, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Woody Allen has a film called Midnight in Paris, where a guy goes back in time to find a bunch of old authors and directors who he likes. And you can tell that, like, the portrayal of the authors are, like, almost kind of stereotyped in a way. But at the same time, it's like, it's from someone else's perspective. Maybe they were perceived that way for real, Sure. Where he meets Hemingway and Hemingway is like, do you fight? It's like, shut up. Hemingway wasn't just about fighting people. I mean, okay. Would you prefer more mistakes were made with the events around the person or with the person themselves? Because I have a good example of a movie that messes up a person themselves.
What is your example?
Rush.
I was just about to bring that one up.
Yeah. What were you going to say about it?
It doesn't seem like that's a very historically accurate movie. In terms of how Hunt and Lauda were that. I feel like they were closer friends than that, weren't they? Weren't they really, really good friends?
I would believe. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't alive in the 70s, but
I mean, you're more
Well, I can ascertain.
you're more into Formula One than me.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah,
You've
yeah.
been watching it for years.
No. I mean, for me, the real big inaccuracy is just Lauda himself and his portrayal in the movie. Because he wasn't.
Which is interesting because Lauda actually said that it was 85% accurate.
Well, it's that last 15%. I mean, it's one of those things where like Lauda is probably like, yeah, I was a dickhead back then, you know.
Probably.
But from the outside, like as a viewer looking in, you're like, he's a cool guy. He's not, you know.
To be fair, though, he was a Ferrari driver. We know what they say about
we know Ferrari does have their.
Shout out to Michael Schumacher.
Yeah.
The doc came out this week.
We got to review that.
But yeah, that was one thing that struck me was they're very contentious in the movie. Mm-hmm. Whereas
in real life,
at least, you know, the stories that have obviously come out decades after,
it wasn't really that bad.
Obviously can be warped.
Yeah.
It seems like they were more friendly. Like they were actually kind of chummy with each other.
Yeah, like
a la like Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly, or
yeah, for sure.
I mean, Russell and Norris.
Knowing Niki Lauda, who is the reason I focus on him, historically, he's one of my favorite drivers of all time.
Sure.
And he was definitely one of those like, do your talking on the track kind of guys.
Should be everybody's favorite.
We'll be friends, but the second you're wheel to wheel to me in a corner, I'm going to push you off.
Yeah.
You know. Let's see where that led him ended up. But nevertheless, yeah. No. Well, my question still stands. Do you kind of prefer? Because I mean, if you mess up like details of the person's life, you know, that can be pretty bad. I mean, for the perception of that person, nobody. Because okay, anybody who watches The Social Network, their perception of Mark Zuckerberg isn't going to change.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
If you watch Amadeus, your perception of Salieri will change because you're going to think that he was like
a
jerk and jealous.
Yeah.
But in real life, he kind of wasn't, you know? And maybe with Rush, if you watch that, you're going to think that these guys just hated each other. And in real life, they didn't.
They didn't.
Yeah. You know? But their hair was still just as long and luscious.
Was James Hunt the biggest Chad in
yes
Formula One during that decade? He looks like a Chad. I've seen pictures of him outside of a jumpsuit.
Yeah, just smoking, you know, in between.
Just casually top button undressed,
seriously,
and smoking a cigarette with a chain.
That was the 70s for you. But yeah, I can excuse historical or like an event inaccuracy more than the personal inaccuracy for me personally. You know, there are times where it really doesn't matter at all, but like to some degree, and okay, that's as a viewer. Now I'm going to talk as somebody who went to film school,
as an artiste,
and as an artiste. When you're doing a biopic, like we said, it just comes down to the essence of the person. Yeah, and you want it to be accurate to the events that happened, as in, you know, you don't always want to make stuff up, unless you're going for that, a la Steve Jobs. But if you're not going for that, you want to like actually have events that happen to that person. You know, what leeway can you take with that? You know, is up to the project itself, and also how interesting it is as an event to happen. Person.
Yeah,
you know. Like, for example, a movie that does it really right. I'll start with a good biopic. A biopic that, regardless of inaccuracies, gets the essence of the person and all the events surrounding them, is Walk the Line. Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Phoenix.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one because, first off, it's pretty accurate to his life itself. Yeah. But it's him as a person. So much of that movie rests on his personality and how he approaches everything that happens to him that it's like they get that perfect. And then you're like, I don't care if any of these things are inaccurate. I just want to watch this guy
do his own thing.
Wear all black and get drunk. Yeah.
It's like Wolf of Wall Street's another one where it's like Leo and Scorsese nailed that character. That everything that kind of happened doesn't matter, even though it adds to the shock value of his life.
Yeah.
which I don't even know if Belfort has actually come out and said
He
the
doesn't care.
accuracy of that
Knowing
film.
him, he doesn't care.
If
like,
anything, he probably appreciates that they exaggerated some bits.
Oh
maybe.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I lived
He's
it
like,
up.
I wish that happened to me. Good enough for me. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
right.
As long as everybody thinks that about me.
But yeah, that's another example of just getting the character right and the person right, and just everything else will fall into piece.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So,
in my opinion. Now, what's a bad biopic?
Capone.
Capone? I don't know that one.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's probably good. I watched like 30 minutes of it. Turned it off.
What was bad about it?
It's just bad. It's Al Capone. So first of all, it's Al Capone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Biggest gangster ever. One of the most notorious of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be an interesting movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide to take,
like, Public Enemy.
Yeah, they
Like
decide
Gangs in New York.
They decide to take his life after he gets arrested, and he's dying from syphilis or chlamydia. I think it's one of those two in Florida.
Unironically, that's going to be the Oppenheimer movie.
It just deals with his mental, because obviously that disease.
He thinks back.
That disease kills your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts to deal with that deterioration of him.
Mm.
And it's like, why?
Yeah.
What purpose did this serve?
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I mean,
and it's a bad movie just from a pure like technicality perspective.
Yeah,
it's bad. It's cheesy and garbage. So
speaking of,
don't recommend anybody watching it because I
have a recommendation. A good biopic.
I thought we were talking about bad biopics.
Going off of the to piggyback off of that mental health.
So we're not journalism.
Yeah.
Majors.
I believe it's another Ron Howard, Russell Crowe movie, but I don't believe the director is Ron Howard. But it stars Russell Crowe, and it's A Beautiful Mind. It is the biopic of the Nobel Prize winning economist John Nash. If you ever heard of game theory, that's John Nash. He was the, I guess you could say, it's hard to discover. He discovered that field of mathematics, basically. Sure. I was gonna say he founded it, but he just kind of discovered and expanded upon it. Yeah. But he suffered from, spoiler alert, it's not a spoiler, he's a real person, schizophrenia. And the movie puts you in his perspective of that.
Of being a schizophrenic.
So you're experiencing all the events that happened to him through his schizophrenia and his lens. And it adds to this weird element when you're watching it where you kind of don't know what's real and what's not. Yeah. And
that's cool.
And
that's smart.
Mm-hmm. For real because there are so many weird little moments for it. I'm not gonna spoil what happens to the characters outside of him, but it's one of those things where there are so many because that's a good thing where you would think, okay, how do you make a biopic about an economist interesting?
Yeah.
Kind of like the Oppenheimer thing. How do you make a biopic about a
take
physicist?
His flaws and exaggerate.
Yeah, and it does a good job. Not to say that the most interesting about him was his schizophrenia, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
Game theory is incredibly interesting, but showing that side of him, they nailed his character basically, and then all the things that happen around him, because what he experiences during the schizophrenia, who's to say that was what he, was experiencing back then?
Yeah.
The events that happened are what he thought was happening. So they kind of just had,
liberty with that.
A little bit of liberty with that, you know? Sure. So they had that, okay, we get the character, and then we can just create conflict because we have this one big point that we can center all the conflict around is he has schizophrenia. But as a biopic, that's still super interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're well, does he get over it? Does he take his meds?
It's conflict within itself.
Yeah.
You don't even have to write or think of.
How does he do that? And how does he win a Nobel Prize if he's too busy doing all this other stuff with his
having to deal with his personal demons?
Yeah, seriously. He really, that movie, it's a good movie. I love that movie. It's a good soundtrack too. Shout out to James Horner. We did the soundtrack.
Should have mentioned it last week.
We should have mentioned it. I did.
Or 2 weeks ago.
We mentioned Titanic, which was James Horner as well.
I guess good point.
So yeah.
What's a bad biopic?
What's a bad biopic? That's tough. Because here's the thing. don't know if I would ever purposely watch a bad biopic unless it was like, I mean, there are times where I'm sure I've been watching a movie and it's a biopic and I'm like, this is just a bad movie. I don't care if it's a biopic or not.
Yeah.
You know? But like in terms of getting inaccuracies about like a person's life or the time period, like getting that wrong, Apocalypto is the first one that comes to my mind. For real.
In terms of being bad,
It's an okay movie, like on its own.
it's just bad.
But yeah, when you actually dig into like the inaccuracies of it, you're like, oh my God, why could they not? Like the one thing they got right was just that the actors speak the language, and that was it. Everything else was just a white dude's perspective of
What went down?
yeah, well, of what went down for the most part. Yeah.
Trying to look through to see if there's any others bad ones.
Why are you purposely looking at bad biopics?
Well, I looked up biopics.
Oh,
and
I
I'm
see,
just
I
scrolling
see.
through.
Yeah. Now, here's one that gets, it's maybe light on character, but the historical events themselves are accurate and worth watching. There's a really good movie. It is a biopic too. It's called The Killing Fields. It is about a American journalist who goes to Cambodia at the time of Civil War, and not Civil War in America, but Civil War in Cambodia. And him and his guide, their travels around Cambodia during the Civil War, and then the victory of the Khmer Rouge. Any of you who know your Cambodian history know that they turned into genocidal maniacs, killing like literally almost 80% of the Cambodian population.
Yeah.
In cities, at least. And
Not good.
It's a biopic of both the American journalist who escapes Cambodia and goes back to America, and his guide who is forced to stay in Cambodia. Then the journalist tries to get him out, but it's really not so much about those two characters as much as it is both the Civil War in Cambodia at the time, and then afterwards the regime of the Khmer Rouge. And, because they took everyone out of the cities and put them all into feudal, you're working labor camps now. And how does he escape from the
They
labor
were not
camps?
nice.
And that's one of those things where it's like, as an American, not even as an American, just you don't learn about that in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a little part of it's so overshadowed by Vietnam, which understandable because we fought in Vietnam. We didn't really fight in Cambodia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weirdly fascinating to see and it's good that it's accurate because you want that perspective on something you don't know about.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to a movie about a historical event and then later find out this was all incorrect.
Braveheart.
Even though Killing Fields is already based off of both of their books on it, so it has that going for it. But nonetheless, light on character, but very accurate in terms of the events that happened at that time, for sure. So if you're okay with subtitles, I would recommend it. Yeah.
There we go. We got another recommendation from James's library.
The Killing Fields. It's a good one.
Yeah, I can't think of any more bad biopics because I don't.
Don't
The thing about biopics is you have to tell a good story.
Mhm.
Like the Richard Jewell. Remember Richard Jewell? That's another Clint Eastwood biopic, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing ads for it, and I was like, "This
Doesn't look good.
doesn't even
Solely.
this doesn't even look like a conflict."
Yeah.
Like it just a guy was thought to be a bomber, and I don't know. I don't
And
even
he's
know.
not.
I don't even know if he is the bomber. I assume
Yeah.
he's not.
Yeah.
But it was just this doesn't even look interesting. Why would I? Why would I go watch this? And I've heard it's not that good anyway. So
Yeah.
if the story doesn't interest me, I'm not gonna.
You're not going to see it anyway.
No.
Yeah.
Like-
Other movies that have light characters or even fictional characters but historical events, are you okay with that kind of
Repeat
that's
the
not
question
really
one
a
more
biopic? This might maybe not be a biopic itself, but a movie that has fake characters but real events.
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
I mean, my favorite example. I don't know my favorite example, but the one that comes to my head is The King.
the one that comes to my head was Patriots Day, the Mark Wahlberg.
That's another good one. Yeah.
Deepwater Horizon too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those two. And his upcoming one about the Mexico Gulf.
I think Peter Berg has found his niche.
Yeah. Disaster
his
movies.
niche. Yeah. No, I don't mind that as much
No.
because it's you're telling the story of the event and not the you know
The people
the
themselves.
people themselves.
Okay, so let's talk about biopics. Are there any how big is casting part of it for you? For example, Michael Fassbender played Steve Jobs perfectly.
he just doesn't look
nothing like Steve Jobs.
He just looks nothing like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
But Ashton Kutcher looks exactly like
He looks
Steve
exactly
Jobs.
like Steve Jobs.
And
at
that
the
movie
time.
sucked.
Yeah. So what we learned from this one example,
I think casting does not matter.
casting doesn't matter.
No.
Will Smith as Muhammad Ali.
That's probably the closest I think we'll get to an actual good, like, great casting, good biopic, that XY graph.
Yeah. Like it's
I think
just
that's
perfectly right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even Eisenberg looks nothing like. The only thing that looks the same
They
is
have
they're
curly
both,
hair.
they're both ginger and
Yeah.
white, and they're both awkward.
Yeah.
But like he looks like a lizard because he's got the narrow face,
Yeah.
and Eisenberg looks like a real human being. So it's kind of
A real human being.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anytime I see the casting be spot on, I know it's gonna be a bad movie.
Yeah.
The one exception I can think of, Straight Outta Compton. All of those characters look all of the actors look exactly like the characters.
Yeah.
The real life characters. It helps obviously when one of them is Ice Cube's own son.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say.
that being said, they do look strikingly really, really close. And for a cast of
Multiple people.
yeah, at least 5 that are pretty spot on. It's I think it's impressive if you get 1.
For me,
To get 5, that's pretty good.
another good example or exception is anything Gary Oldman does.
Yeah, that man is just something different. The fact that he went from playing
Mank, and then freaking Christian Bale as Churchill.
yeah.
Those two, it's just like, what?
He went from Churchill to Mank, and it was just like, oh, that makes sense.
Wait, I thought it was Christian Bale was Churchill.
Christian Bale was Dick Cheney.
Oh, that's right.
That one's another one though.
That's
like,
what
the
they're both
hell?
big fat bald men.
That one's also like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was Churchill. Oh my god. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Freaking Gary Goldman just does everything.
Gary Oldman is,
Did I say Goldman?
I don't remember.
worry about that. Gary Oldman, he's a good character actor. He's probably my favorite character actor.
Yeah.
'Cause he just nails everything. And I mean, a lot of that too. Those are good examples of movies where the casting is good because Gary Oldman's range is like infinity.
Yes.
It works because he wears the fat suit.
Yeah. He's willing to
And
do.
he looks like him.
He's willing to do the because a lot
prosthetics
of
and makeup.
Yeah, A-list actors are like, no, I need to be noticeable in this movie. I mean, that's the one thing I don't like about Leo and Brad Pitt. Is like, they
have
will
to look
not
like
go under
themselves.
any makeup whatsoever.
Yeah.
And obviously, let's be real. You know that they're like, no, I'm not going under any makeup.
Yeah.
Even in J. Edgar, Leo looks nothing like J. Edgar. Leo looks absolutely nothing like J. Edgar. From what I've seen, I've never seen the movie, but from what I've seen of clips and stills, he looks nothing like him. So it's
in Revenant, he doesn't even look like Hugh Glass, but he just grew out the beard, and that was it. He was like, "You have
Best
a beard,
Oscar
you're
winner.
a fur trapper." There you go.
You get your best
That's how
Oscar.
he got his Oscar.
You get your best
Yep.
Oscar.
Grow a beard. But no, yeah, for sure. Obviously, either of those roles wouldn't work if he didn't wear the makeup and the prosthetics.
Yeah.
But as the actor, the choice of actor themselves, because they have such big range to them, and they can do those accents. That's a big part of it too. Those freaking videos where the guy
They're so
breaks
talented.
down the accents. But no, for sure, I think Gary Oldman, even though
Definitely
he
the
doesn't look like the person in real life, he nailed the performance anyway, just being himself.
The fact that he can go from Sirius Black to James to Commissioner Gordon
Yeah,
to
fat
Churchill.
suits. Yeah,
to
Mank.
Mank
Yeah.
in a span of a decade is just
he's a good actor.
it's absurd. It's absurd.
I know.
It's impressive.
It's more than impressive. It's
And
scary.
each of those portrayals, obviously, I'm kind of paraphrasing his career, but each of those portrayals is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
He's
Pretty
a good actor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So-
Yeah, same with Christian Bale too.
Mhm.
Although Christian Bale suffers a bit from the look at what I can do kind of thing, in my opinion.
He's just trying to get that best Oscar. the best.
He's really no, he
So,
wasn't gonna get it
main
for the
actor.
Machinist. I didn't know he was thinking about that.
He's
But
trying to get main actor.
yeah, you think so?
Everybody saw Jared Leto do it and Matthew McConaughey do it, and they're like, we got to do that too.
Yeah. Nah. Well, yeah. Yeah. True. Hey, that is a biopic, Dallas Buyers Club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether it's
I've
accurate or not, I
seen,
don't know.
Like an hour
but-
of it. Don't know if it's accurate at all. I know it's based off of the book. I
Yeah.
think.
And I know that there are some historical inaccuracies from what I remember.
Yeah, like it was actually in Fort Worth and not in Dallas.
Well, okay.
Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Most of the endings to these movies are changed,
Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
weird. I wonder why it's endings. They're happier if we change them.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Because I think, yeah, probably.
Most people have sad endings. Let's be real. Most
we
real
all,
people.
We all have sad endings. Anything else? We're at an hour 20, so.
We're at an hour and 20 minutes. Oh
Yeah,
my
I
god,
know.
we spent so much time talking about Nolan.
We really did it though.
Yeah.
I looked at the clock and we were at 40 minutes.
Wow, that's
So-
impressive.
I think.
Okay,
Don't quote me on that, guys.
let me ask you this: who will direct Kubrick's biopic?
Nolan.
Nolan?
It's gonna be Nolan.
I think it might be Spielberg.
It's Spielberg, man.
He finished AI.
Don't want it to be Spielberg. But Spielberg's gonna make it crappy. Like, what's the last Spielberg movie you actually went to watch and were like, that's a great movie?
Lincoln, which was a biopic.
Was it great though? Was it great?
Well, it wasn't offensive.
No, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But was it like,
Okay, shut up.
all right, when you
We're
look at the
moving on.
2010s, do you, and I say, give me your top 25 movies of the 2010s. Does
Okay.
Lincoln even make the top 50?
Yeah. I probably didn't see more than 50 movies in 2010s.
I don't know.
You never know.
It's debatable.
Oh,
But
movies that came out during that time period. Absolutely. I mean,
it is a very, very good biopic, and it's a good movie.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's a crappy movie or anything like that. I'm just saying.
Daniel Day-Lewis, he's another good character actor.
Daniel
Gangs in New
Day-Lewis.
York, also biopic.
There Will Be Blood. Is that the best
That's not a
biopic of all
biopic,
time?
no, it's not a
I know.
biopic. No Country for Old Men, best biopic that hasn't happened yet.
I know what the best biopic is. Wizard of Oz. And with that, are we ready to get out?
Sure.
We're crashing out. See you guys, ladies. Thank you. Subscribe, like video. See you guys next week.
Don't go drop bombs like Nolan.